G'day viewers, it's Alex from the NIA support team. This video is how to update your iAiming on an Android Wi-Fi device. We've made this video to hopefully better explain the process and simplify it for our viewers. The process is risk-free and will bring the latest features and improvements to your device. Before we get started, there are some things you'll need in order to complete this update. The first thing is your iAiming scope. You'll want to back up all files that are on there prior to this update and also ensure it is fully charged. You'll also need a device to install the iAiming app on, and you'll want to get the latest version, which will be on your relative app store. And in this case, you will need a password for your home Wi-Fi network. First up, you will need to get your iAiming's Wi-Fi details. To do this, grab your scope and go into the menu using the dial. Scrolling through the menu, you will see a Wi-Fi icon. Select this and turn it to on. Once it is selected to on, tap the button again and you will have now turned your scope's Wi-Fi on. You can then get out of the menu by holding the button down for a second. You will then need to clarify the scope's Wi-Fi password. To do this, go back into the menu, scroll down to the second page, click the setting icon, and then you will see an option shown that will show your scope's Wi-Fi password. In this case, my password is the default, which is 87654321. If you select this, you can go through and change these numbers if you have a preferred password. Once completed, hold the button for a second to get out of the menu, and you'll have to do this again to get out of the second menu. Now that we have the network details, it's time to connect your device to your iAiming. To do this, you need to open up the settings on your device. In this case, we have an app menu and we'll click settings here. After that, you'll want to find your connections on the device. In this case, they've come up immediately and you'll want to select Wi-Fi. Now we can see a list of all the Wi-Fi networks available to us. And in this case, the scopes one is quite clear. It's labeled IA612, as this is an iAiming 612. So we'll select that. We now put in that password we retrieved earlier. In my case, it was 87654321. After that, we can hit done, and it should connect to the scope. Depending on your device, you may see a prompt similar to this that's telling you that there's no internet available. This is normal as the scope does not provide an internet connection to the device. Allow it to connect, otherwise it may not maintain a connection with the scope. After the scope is connected and you can see it's connected, you can then go back to your main home screen and launch the iAiming app. With the app open, you should see your scope immediately on the home screen and saying connected. If you do not see your scope, you can try hitting the refresh and connect buttons. If these still do not show your scope, confirm it is connected back in the Wi-Fi menu and try relaunching the app. We're going to go ahead and see what information we can find on the scope. So to do this, we select the scope. And here it shows the relevant hardware, software, and other firmware versions. In this case, we actually have no version for these two components. There is an update that will change this and will give us version numbers there. So I can tell immediately that we need to update this scope. So to do this, we'll proceed by hitting firmware update. On the firmware update screen, you'll see three firmware options. The main option that will change features on the scope are soft firmware updates. The ARM and FPGA firmware updates are under the hood as such and are just for components within the scope. It is, however, important to ensure these are updated first prior to updating soft. So in this case, we will update the FPGA firmware first. So we will click that. And as we can see, it did not report a version before. but we will now check for a version and see if we can update it. So as you can see on the app, it says to disconnect the device from the Wi-Fi. The reason for this is we now need to connect to our home Wi-Fi that actually has internet. So to do this, you can exit the app just by pressing your home button. We go into settings as we did before. Select Wi-Fi. As you can see, it's still connected to my iAiming unit. And then select your home network from a list. This may already be paired with your tablet, but if not, you will need to put the password in that you found previously. You can see we are now connected to this network and we have internet on the device. So now we will go back to the main screen, open the iAiming app once again, and you will see it's exactly where we left it. So now if we hit check latest version, it should tell us if we need to update. So in this case, we can see that there is an update available for this scope. So we will go ahead and download that. You can also see in these notes that it suggests to ensure the magnification is set higher than the lowest possible. It is a good idea for all iAimings to just take the magnification at the point you're going to update it and just wind it to its maximum adjustment. After you've done that, you can then go ahead and click download new firmware. We can now see that the firmware update is complete and that has come off the internet. So it's now asking us to connect back to our scope so that it can now send this across to the iAiming. So it's the same process as before. We'll go back to the menu, go into settings, back to our Wi-Fi connections. We can see we're still connected to our home network in this case. So we will go in here and change back to the iAiming. Now we can go back to the main screen, back to our iAiming app and hit update now. With these particular updates, the soft firmware works a bit differently. You will not get much feedback on the device itself. So the best place to look as to what's happening with the update is on the screen. You will see a message on the scope saying that a file is being transferred. As you can see, our scope is now updated, and on our tablet we get a message confirming the update is completed and to restart the device. So at this stage you can hit confirm and exit on the tablet, and that just closes the app and takes you back to the home screen. From there, we now want to restart our device before commencing any further updates. So to do that, just hold the power button down as you would normally until the device turns off, and then you can turn it back on. With the device now turned off, just power it back on. Once powered back on, we will need to go through the device and turn the Wi-Fi back on. Our password will be the same as we found at the start of the video, but we will need to ensure it's on. So we just want to go into that first menu, as I demonstrated at the start, scroll down to the Wi-Fi and turn it on. With that complete, we can now put our scope down and resume updating. So as before, the first step is to jump back in and reconnect the scope to the device. So you can see the scope is back here and we'll connect back to it. Now that we're connected, we'll go back to the home screen and open the iAiming app. Now that we are back in the app, we can select our scope once again, go to firmware update and do the ARM firmware update. So once again, prior to this, we just want to make sure our scope is set to max magnification. And now we will connect the device back to the wireless network. So as before, we've gone into the settings, we're in connections, and we're going back to Wi-Fi and picking our home network. Once connected, we can go back to our home screen, back into the iAiming app, and check for the latest version. Now we can see once again there's a new version for this particular firmware, and we'll go ahead and download that. The file is now downloaded, so we can go back to the Wi-Fi and reconnect the scope. So once again, back to the main screen, into your settings, back to your Wi-Fi, and pick your iAiming. Now that it's connected, we can go straight back into the iAiming app and hit update now once again. As with the previous update, you will get some information on the screen of the scope, but the best place to look to see how the update's doing is your tablet. The update is now complete, we can see that. So we'll now confirm and exit once again and restart the scope. With the scope restarted, we'll want to go into the menu as before and turn the wireless back on. With the wireless back on, we can once again set the scope down and proceed to do the final update for the soft. So to do this, we'll once again want to connect back to our scope via our settings and Wi-Fi. Selecting our scope again in the list. Going back to our main screen and into the iAiming app. So we will select our device in the app as we had before. And now you can see also that we've updated both of these firmwares. They now actually show. So now we'll go ahead and do the final update of the soft. So once again, we just need to connect back to our home network so we can check for an update. So back to the main screen, into settings, select Wi-Fi and your home network. We're now connected, so we'll go back to the home screen, back into iAiming, and click the check the latest version button. Once again, it's reported an update is available. We'll go ahead now and download this. But before we do need to make sure that scope is zoomed in again completely. And now we can go ahead. The update is now downloaded and ready to go. So we'll connect back to our scope and send it over. So back to the main screen, back into our settings, back into the Wi-Fi, and pick your iAiming. Now that we're connected, we'll go back to the main screen, back into the iAiming app and hit update now. The soft update is now complete, so we'll hit confirm and exit and restart the device one last time. Your iAiming scope should now be updated. So from here, you should be good to use it, but if you want to check that the update has gone on, you can do this in the app. So in this case, we've connected it as we saw before in the video, and we're just going to have a quick look. So we'll click on iAiming, and we can see our version numbers there. In this case, we've taken the software to 2.3.1, and that's the latest firmware as of the time of making this video. Now I'll just show one extra thing. If we go into firmware update and go through the process as we had before, you will see when I click check latest version, it'll just have a pop-up come up in a moment saying latest version now. This is what you would see if your scope was already up to date. And if you see that, you can go back using the little arrow up here and check the next software version. So you don't need to disconnect and reconnect your scope. You can just simply check the next one. If they're all up to date, then there's no updating to do. I hope this video has helped you update your device. Don't be afraid to have a go with this. It's a very simple process, and if there are issues, it's very unlikely you can harm the device. If you do encounter issues doing this, don't hesitate to contact NIA or your local dealer. Thank you for watching.